Hello.
Hello. You got back, Harold?
I'm back. I'm back.
Did your team win?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's all that matters. This is where we ended up last time. Is it? Did we go much? Oh, maybe. You know where we finished last time?
It was before the end of Parak Aleph, but we didn't start. I think he was going to finish Aleph and then continue on to
Okay, that's right.
Bet.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Mario.
How are you, Mario?
I forgot to pick up my stuff.
Good stuff.
Yes, I know
Oh,
you.
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Te olvidaste el sombrero y una
I know. Okay, voy a escribir, decirle algo oh my God, Anna. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh,
problem.
I had plenty of time to pick it up today.
No way, I can wear the hat. It fits me.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God. Okay. What time can I come tomorrow to pick it up? Is there a good time to come by? Do you know? I'll ask Anna.
Anna has a physical therapy at 9:30, so after 11 it's okay.
What time did you say? Oh, what time did you say, Mario?
11, a las 11.
11. Okay.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
When is Susie coming back?
We're staying there for Pesach. I'm
Oh,
going.
you're going. Oh, okay.
But how are you going? You're going with the same problem that Susie had?
My flight is not. My flight is. I have a flight scheduled next Sunday. It has not been canceled.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you have an Israeli passport or not.
Say that again.
It doesn't matter if you have an Israeli passport or not. Wasn't that her issue?
But she was on a rescue flight.
Ah,
Her regular flight was canceled.
I got you.
Then she got reticketed on this flight.
Uh-huh.
And then when she showed up, yeah, they asked her for an Israeli passport. They didn't want to let her on.
Did you check if your ticket says Hormuz on it or Karg Island? Did you check?
My flight has not been canceled as of now. I don't know whether we'll hear something in the next couple of days that changes that. I don't know. So we're going to be there for Pesach. We're coming back Chol Hamoed. We're not going to be there all of Pesach, but we'll be coming back Chol Hamoed. Okay.
Chapter 2.
Well, no, we did. We're on chapter 1, Pasuk 9. We're on Pasuk test. We didn't complete that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Koresh took all the kalim of the Beis Hamikdash, and they were taken up with the Olim to Eretz Yisrael. Ve'elam isparam, and Pasuk Test describes to us what they took and their number. Agar tele zahav shloshim. These were golden. The Metzudah say it was a wash basin. The Talmud Yerushalmi says that these were when you shecht an animal, the blood has to be collected in a bowl, and the agar tele zahav were for the lambs, because the Hebrew word for lamb is tele. So oger is to gather. It's actually the Yerushalmi. I have the Yerushalmi Yuma. Rav Shmuel bar Nachman Omer Mokom she'ogrim bo damo shel tleh, where they would gather the blood of the lamb when they shechted it. And the agar tele kesef Mokom she'ogrim damo shel par. When they shechted a cow, this would made out of silver. Now, there's a lot more blood collected from a cow than from a sheep. So the bowl had to be a lot bigger. So it makes sense that the bowl for the par was made out of silver. Because you need more silver. So there were 30 golden bowls. There were 1,000 silver bowls. Machalafim tisha ve'esrim. The machalafim, the meforshim learn, are the knives. We have in the Mishnah and Midos that describes the building of the Beis Hamikdash, Beis HaChalifos were the place where they would sharpen the knives, or they would store the knives there. So the Machalifim refers to knives.
The knife that a butcher that used to Shech the animal, it's called chalef.
Chalafim, that's the knife.
Yeah.
Now, what the word chalaf means to exchange, right? Like chalipin, to exchange. So the Korban HaEdah, the Meforish and Yerushalmi says, the ultimate transformation is going from life to death. So, and that the knife is used, so that's why it's called a chalaf, like Tzvi said. The sakinim. By the way, the Meforshim say that the word for knife in Arabic is chalpa. And the Bartanura, the Meforish of the Mishnah says Latin is, chalap is in Latin, knife. The Tiferes Yisrael says it's in Greek. So we have many pshatim as to why we have the word chalaf. Pasuk Yud. Kifore zav shloshim. These were golden bowls that were used to carry the blood to the Mizbeach. And the Kohanim would wipe their bloody hands on the rim. So kfore means to wipe. Like ulai achapra panav. So they were wiping bowls. And they would take the knives also that had blood on it and like clean it off on the rim. Kfore kesef mishnim arba meos vasara. There were 410 secondary silver bowls. And kelim acherim olive. And there were 1,000 other types of kelim that were used in the Beis Hamikdash. Pasuk Yud Aleph, kol kelim la zahav la kesef. If you add up all the gold and silver kelim, chameshes alofim varba meos, 5,400 more, 5,400. Hakol hel Shatzar, who we said was Daniel, he had 6 tsaros. Im healot hagolah, these were brought up by Daniel with the Golim, Bavel Yerushalayim, when they went up from Bavel to Yerushalayim at the command of Koresh. Now, if you add this all up, it was not, the Pesukim gave us numbers, it doesn't add up to 5,400. Rashi says that the Pesukim only mentioned the ones that were most valuable. But the less valuable, when they added them up, was 5,400.
I'm going to see to show the
Ibn Ezra says it has to do with size. That only the larger kelim were counted in the Pesukim, and the smaller ones were not, but they were added up to 5,400. The Malbim says that these were 5,400 other kelim that Nebuchadnezzar had taken and Koresh had brought back. And Koresh added to his own to get this larger number. The multiple pshatim. Okay. Now we finished Perek Aleph. We're going to go to Perek Beis. Ve'ele bnei Medina. Translating it means these are the children of the province. Ha'olim mishvi Golah, who are making aliyah from those who had been in exile. Asher heglad Nebuchadnezzar, melech Bavel Bavel. Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, had exiled these people to Babylonia. Now vayashuvu liyushalayim v'Yehuda Ish li'iro. Now the exiles are going to return to Jerusalem and to Judea, each person to his own city. Rashi, Eile bnei Yisrael Hashem Medinas Eretz Yisrael Haolim Atam min Ashvi. Rashi says this count that we're not going to go through were those people who are still alive, who were brought into exile from Eretz Yisrael, and now they themselves are returning. Because Rashi is learning that when it says Elu bnei Medina, it refers to Medinas Yisrael, the province Israel, where they had been taken captive from. The Ibn Ezra says no. Elu bnei Medina, these are the Jews that are living in Babylonian exile. Rashi l'shitoso, when it says Vayashuvu Yerushalayim v'Yehuda, it's not that Yehuda is not referring to a place; it's referring to those people who have been exiled from Judea. They are now returning to their ancestral homes. The Mitsudos say the Bnei Medina are now returning to Shalayim and to Yehuda, everyone to his own city. Rashi didn't learn that way because it should have said, if it's based on that, LeYerushalayim Villa Yehuda. There is a Pasuk in Nehemiah which actually uses that language. So here, since it doesn't say LeYerushalayim Villa Yehuda, Rashi learns his way. The Malbim says that here in Sefer Ezra, these Pesukim are referring to the Manhigim, the spiritual leaders. Their primary destination was going to Yerushalayim to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. After they finished that job, then they would go to their homes elsewhere, outside of Jerusalem. And in reference to Yerushalayim, Yehuda is secondary. Here it says Yerushalayim because that's their primary objective. Sefer Nehemiah, where it talks about not the Chachamim, not the Zakenim that are coming up to Yerushalayim. There it says Yerushalayim v'Yehuda because you're talking about two types of people going back to their home city. A very important concept is taught us in Gemara Chulin 7a. When it says, Ish li'iro, everyone went back to their own city, the Gemara learns that they didn't repopulate all the old cities that they came from. They left many cities when they came back with Ezra unpopulated. Why is this? This has to do with Shemitah. When they first came into Eretz Yisrael with Yoshua, so there was kibush, that's the first kibush. And there was kedusha through that kibush. But that kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, where every place Yoshua conquered had kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore Shemitah applied, that went away, that kedusha, after the destruction of Bais Rishon. So therefore there's no Shemitah anymore. Now they're going to come up with Ezra, and we're going to see it. They're going to do a certain ritual in Yerushalayim, and every place that they settled, this is Kedusha Shniya. And every place that they sanctified, now they would have to follow Shemitah. However, there's a lot of poor people that came with them. If the entire country had to follow Shemitah, it would be very hard for the poor people. So they purposely did not take control of certain cities, so there would be no Kedusha in those cities. So they would be exempt from Shemitah, they could be worked freely, and all that food would be used to feed the poor people.
But
Who lived in Israel in the 70 years that they were in Bovel? Who occupied Israel at that time?
Nobody.
It was
Chazal tell us that when they left Gedaliah, right? That Achikam is the governor. After Gedaliah was assassinated, the Babylonians removed all the Jews from there, completely fallow for 52 years.
Ernie, by the way, one of the things for the Heter on Shemitah is Beit Sha'an, because they said that Beit Sha'an that was one of the only places that was never taken back during this time when they came back, and that's why they used that place, as they say that there's no Shemitah that's a chal over there, because it's Kitchel Shaita Kitchel Atid Lavo was not done that time for them.
Right, because you see here, this Pasuk where it says Ish Li'iro, the Gemara in Chulin learns they purposefully left certain areas unpopulated so that the poor people would have food. Exactly. The Toldos Amolam, which is like a history, 5-volume history written by a Rebbe in Torvidas, points out that most of the Olim were Zakanim that were still alive during Bais Rishon. We're going to be told a story that when they rebuild or they attempt to rebuild the new Beis HaMikdash, all of the people who had seen the prior Beis HaMikdash were crying because they saw how inferior it was. Well, it implies that the majority of the people who would come back now, at least with this first Aliyah, were the original Zakanim who had actually been exiled themselves, which fits with the Pasuk. Pasuk Beis. Asher ba'u im Zerubbabel. This initial Aliyah, we'll see, Ezra does not come on this Aliyah. The leader of remember we learned last week, he stays in Bavel with Baruch ben Neriah, his Rebbe, until Baruch ben Neriah dies, and then he comes up. Asher bam Zerubbabel, they list other people, and we will discuss each one of them. Yeshua, Nehemiah, Sraya, Re'elia, Mordechai Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rechum, Ba'ana. Mispar, Anshe Am Yisrael. So, who is Zerubbabel? So, there's a machlokes. Because here it says that these are the names of people who had been exiled with Nebuchadnezzar, now are coming back. But the Gemara in Sanhedrin 38a says, Zerubbabel was born in Babylonia. We'll see in a minute how. Yet Rashi says, Zerubbabel well, Rashi said these are all the people who had been exiled and now coming back with Zerubbabel. There's different uses of tenses here. past tense versus present. So the Metzudos learn that this is now just the Jews that are coming with Zerubbabel from the Golan, Bavel, back to Eretz Yisrael. Now, who was Zerubbabel? He was the son of Melech Yoachim, who was, remember, was taken exile 18 years before Tzidkiyahu. He is also referred to as Zerubbabel ben Shealtiel. And he's referred to many times in Chagai and later on in Sefer Ezra as the major Jewish leader during this period of Binyan by Sheni. He was like the governor of Judea. That same Gemara, Sanhedrin 38a, says Zerubbabel is none other than Nehemiah ben Chachaliah, the author of the book of Nehemiah. And the word Zerubbabel means Nizra Babavel. He was conceived in Babylonia. And really his name is Nehemiah, but his nickname was Zerubbabel. Now, we're going to see Sefer Ezra locates Zerubbabel in Yerushalayim during this whole period when Koresh allowed them to go up and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. Until the second year, like we said, of the Darius, the Persian king, the son of Esther, where he actually allowed them to continue the building. And during that period of time, Zerubbabel is running politics in Yerushalayim. However, in Sefer Nehemiah, we're going to learn that Nehemiah only heard about the problems in Yerushalayim in the 20th year of Darius's reign, 18 years after they completed building the Beis HaMikdash. Where was Zerubbabel during the second and the 20th year of Darius? It sounds like Zerubbabel had left Yerushalayim after they had constructed the Beis HaMikdash. It had been started in the second year of Darius's reign, but was finished in the 6th year. He settled in Shushan. And there he appears again in Sefer Nehemiah under the name Nehemiah ben Chachaliah. And then he comes back to Eretz Yisrael in Darius's 20th year. Now, Rav Yaakov Emden, the Yavitz, the great Achron, raises the issue that one of you should have raised. In this Pasuk we just read, what does it say? Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah. How could Nehemiah and Zerubbabel be the same person if we're talking about two different people? And it's Zerubbabel and Nehemiah are mentioned again in Sefer Nehemiah. So most of the Rishonim, the Rambam in his Peres HaMishnayos, the Meiri, the Abarbanel, the Bartanura, they say Zerubbabel and Nehemiah are not the same person. Zerubbabel is the son of Yehoiachin, and Nehemiah is a different person who eventually comes as and serves as the governor in Yerushalayim. Now, who is Yeshua? The Ibn Ezra and the Metzudos say he is Yoshua Kohen Gadol. We learn a famous Haftorah on Hanukkah that here's Yoshua Kohen Gadol and he's wearing Bigdei Tsoim. He's wearing dirty clothing. And the Navi asks, do you see this? What do you see? I see a menorah. Yoshua says, I don't know what it is. And then he says, Lo b'chayil v'lo b'choach. The protagonist of that Haftorah is Yoshua Kohen Gadol. And that's this Yeshua. And Yoshua was the one with this other Kohanim that built the first Mizbeach with the Navi Chagai telling him where to build it. Now we talked about Nehemiah, Sarya and Ra'alya. By the way, they have different names in Nehemiah, which is not uncommon. Then, of course, we have Mordechai, Bilshan. This is Mordechai Yehudi of Queen Esther. We know that Mordechai did come from the exile of Yechanya Melech Yehuda, because it says in the Megillah, Yechanya Melech Yehuda, Asher Hegla Melech Yehuda, that Mordechai was taken exile to Babylonia during the time of Yechanya. But now, remember, this is before Koresh is the king before Achashverosh. So Mordechai emigrates to Yerushalayim. He doesn't settle there permanently because we find him back in Shushan during Achashverosh's reign, who succeeded Cyrus. And of course, Achashverosh rules for 14 years. The construction of the Beis Hamikdash, we're going to see, was stopped. At that time, Mordechai left and went back to Shushan. He wanted to get into the good graces of the king to convince him to permit the completion of the Beis Hamikdash. Now, if we count Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah, Sraya, Ra'alia, we have Mordechai. So he's listed fifth. When Nehemiah, who later on makes Aliyah, he also mentions Mordechai, they mention it in sixth. So now during Koresh, he's the fifth greatest Talmid Chacham.
Ernie, was Esther still alive in Shushan?
Okay, we're talking about Koresh.
I understand. But
Hang on. This is the Aliyah that Koresh allows them to go.
I get it.
Koresh rules for another 2 or 3 years. Then Achashverosh becomes king. And then, of course, we said Esther was 75 years old. She became king. So, of course, she's alive. Okay. So now he's the fifth greatest Talmid Chacham. And later on, after the story of Purim, he becomes the sixth. Chazal say Mordechai was knocked down a peg because he now became prime minister to Achashverosh. But his diligence in the study of Torah diminished. So as a result of his political affairs, his standing among the Chachamim went from fifth to sixth.
These are still the leaders of the Anshe Knesset Agdola. These are the top people still.
Correct. But he was fifth now when he goes. Then he goes back to Shushan, gets involved in the whole Achashverosh story. Then he comes back again with Nehemiah. By then he's listed only sixth.
Because Talmud Torah is more important than...
Says the Gemara in Megillah, Talmud Torah is greater even than Pikuach Nefesh. Now, how could such a thing be? We know that saving a life takes precedence over all mitzvahs, except for the 3 cardinal sins, right? Gilui Arayos, Shvichus Damim, Avodah Zarah. Not only that, in Mordechai's case, the whole threat to the Jewish people had gone away. When he was made minister, there's no threat anymore. So that's what the Chachamim blame him for. It was a great mitzvah, but it doesn't take precedence over the study and teaching of Torah, since there was no clear threat at that time. He was appointed after all of this. Now, the word Bilshan says that he was like a language expert from the word Lashon. And not only that, he could understand, through word comparisons, associations. He was a genius regarding words. Mordechai is also called Petachia, the word petach, to open. If you remember, he was able to discover the plot about Bigson Viseresh because they were not even discussing it in full language. They were just discussing it, in hidden secrets. But his ability, he was able to discern it because of this bilshon. And that's why the Gemara ends up saying, the Megillah ends up saying, V'ratzui l'rovechav, v'lo kolachav, because Shapir Shuvimenu Mikta Sanhedrin. Rav Yosef Gadol Talmud Torah Yosef Matzos Nefashos, because he was knocked down a peg. Now, the Meforshim understand that Mordechai Tzaddik was Mevatel Talmud Torah. He was involved in Atzos Nefashos. He had to do that mitzvah, and there was nobody else who could do it. And he had to put down his Sefer Torah. He lost personal achievement. He's knocked from 5th to 6th. But that doesn't mean he didn't have to do it. The Taz in Yoredeya says, Mutter l'shanois ma'os shenidva l'Talmud Torah b'shvil atzos nefashos. Charity money that was given to Talmud Torah can be used to save people's lives. It's a kasha from here. So the Taz says, Ein kan kushya. Devada ein lecha davar oime b'fnei pikuach nefesh. Nothing stands in the way of pikuach nefesh. Hasam oime de yoyser yesh chus l'mishu zorech lasok b'Torah v'lo bali de'atzos. It still doesn't deny the fact that somebody who wasn't pulled away and could to atzos nefashos and could spend his time learning is on a higher madrega. And I like the answer that was given that it was all happened. He was appointed after the real danger was over. At that time, he should not have gotten so involved in government.
It's hard to believe that. I mean, I hear what the Mepharshim say, but it's hard to believe because through Mordechai, his great nephew was the one. Darius II was the one who basically gave the okay to build the Beis Hamikdash again. So without his being there as prime minister, the likelihood of that happening, I mean, it's all in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he was obviously a vital factor in the Binyan Beis Hamikdash.
But let's put it this way. Let's say at Harvard Law School, you have the top professors. So there's a ranking based on their legal achievements. So this list of the Anshe Knesset Gdola was based on their Torah accomplishments. And Mordechai had dropped down a peg because he was involved in it. It's not to say that what you're saying is not correct. It was very important. Nothing could have happened. But in assessing Torah scholarship, it had an effect. Now, we said Yeshua is the same as Yoshua Kohen Gadol. What's with the hay? Where's the hay? What happened to the hay? So there's a discussion about this. We're going to see that whole Haftorah, why is he wearing big date sewing? And they get burned. Because from his children, they married inappropriate women. So the hay was removed. Why is the hay removed? Because hay represents the name of Hashem. We have in Parshas Bamidbar, where they talk about Mishpachas HaChanochi. Why didn't they just say Mishpachas Chanoch? There's a hay in the beginning and a yud behind, in front of every palui, hapalui, every name there. Why? Lefishayu umos mavazanoisam. The umos said, listen, obviously you were slaves in Egypt. The Egyptians raped your mothers. You're not pure Jews. In if they were using your bodies for servitude, certainly they had their way with the women. So leficha chitil HaKadosh Baruch Hu shmo aleim. Hey mitzad zeh v'yud mitzad zeh. Yud K. Lomar. Made ani aleim shehem b'nei avoseim. And that's why it says Shiftei Ka Edus Yisrael by David. Yud K. Hashem hazeh made aleim l'shifteim lefichach b'kulam. Hachanoichi apalawi. Yimna didn't need that because it was already Yud and Hey. And we know the famous drasha in Sota Yud Zayin, Ish ve'isha zachu shchina b'neiha. A husband and wife that are meritorious, so there's shchina with them. Lo zachu eish ochalta. Rashi there says shchina b'neihem, sharei chilek et shmo v'shichnu b'neihem Yud be'ish, the Hey be'isha. Right? The man gets Aleph Yud Shin, the woman gets Aleph Shin Hey. And if they don't have merit, they're both the Yud, the name of Hashem is taken away, they become Eish. So since this Yoshua Kohen Gadol didn't protest when his children married inappropriate women, they took the Hey away from him. I think it's a nice pshat. How come the woman gets the Hey and the man gets the Yud? Because the Gzer and the women, it was first on them that there was a Gzer of that they should commit Averis, and they withstood it. And so b'schus, that's why we say b'schus noshim tzidkanios nigalo avosem mitzrayim. They sort of developed the kedusha even before the men. Now, the other, Ezra was also a Kohen. Ezra is the son of Sraya. And Yoshua is the nephew of Ezra. So why didn't Ezra? So because only Yoshua went up with Zerubbabel now, not Ezra. We said Ezra stayed behind with Baruch ben Neriah. The Gra says that throughout Bayis Rishon we only had 12 Kohanic Doilim. And Yehotzadok ben Sraya, the last Kohen Gadol was Sraya. And his son Yehotzadok did not serve as Kohen Gadol. He went into Golus. His son Yoshua took over as a Kohen Gadol, this Yeshua. And he went before Ezra ben Sraya. Even though he was older. I'm sorry. He was not. Yehotzadok was the Bechor. And he was the Mamali Mokum of his father. That's what the Gra brings. Okay. Pasuk Gimel. We start listing names of people. Bnei Parosh, Alpay Me'er Shivim U'Shnayim, 2,172. Rashi says, Yesh b'hem b'parsha shemaskir shem aviyim al shem b'nei hamishpacha. Sometimes it's the name of their father. Yesh b'hem shemaskir al shem makomam. Sometimes they're mentioned based on where they came from. The Mishnah in Tainis Chavav says that the Bnei Parush were of those mishpachos that they were given the right to donate wood for the grill on the mizbeach. It says b'chamisha ba'av Bnei Parush ben Yehuda and be'echad b'tevis shavu Bnei Parush shniya. They did it twice. Ask the Gemara there, Ton Rabbanon, Lama hutzruchu lomer zman atze kohanim ve'am. What is the point here that we're told these were the days that these people had the right to donate wood? When the people making aliyah came, they found no wood to use in the mizbeach. These people stood up and they donated on their own. So the Nevi'im in that generation made a t'nai. A Pasuk in Nehemiah says, "V'goralosi panu al korban ha'etzim ha'kohanim Leviim ve'am lavi labayit Elokeinu lebeit avotenu." So the Nevi'im gave the right to these certain families because they stepped up when they needed to. We know that most of the people who made Aliyah were poor. Ha'olim b'Yerushalayim hayu ba'oini, u'v'torach ha'malocha v'emes kol tzvoseh. Even so, these of generous spirits stood up and donated the wood. And we know it was hard for them. Bnei Shvatya 372. The children of Shvatya 372. The Meforshim say he's a descendant of David HaMelech. Bnei Arach 750. They're also listed. Be'echad b'Nisan, Bnei Arach ben Yehuda donated the wood. Then Bnei Pachas Moab of Bnei Yeshua Yoav. The children of the governor of Moab, of the children of Yeshua and Yoav, 2,812. So the Metzudas say Pachas Moab is the governor of Moab. And who's Livnei Yeshua Yoav? Min Bnei Yeshua, Min Bnei Yoav. They were from this family of the governor. That's what the Metzudas says. And that mishpach is mentioned by the Mishnah in Tainis, like we said, about the people who donated the wood. Be'esrim bo b'nei Pachas Moab ben Yehuda. Rashi says, Hein Hein b'nei David ben Yehuda. These are also children of David. Why? Because David is from Rus HaMoaviyah. David Melch Yisrael. V'hachi karle Pachas Moab sheba merus HaMoaviyah. And Ezra, the Perush, different Perush says, Hein b'nei Yoav ben Sruya, right? David HaMelech's nephew, Yoav, who was the Sar Tzava. That's who the Bnei Pachas Moab, because it mentions Yoav. Bnei Elam 1254. Some say it's a place, some say it's the name of a family. Bnei Zatu, Chameos V'Arboim V'Chamisha. 945, the Bnei Zatu. Who's the Bnei Zatu? The Gemara in Megillah Tainis says, Umara'u Bnei Zatu ben Yehuda Lito lahem shem tov v'zecher tov l'doros. It says, B'chamisha asar bo, on Tu B'Av, B'nei Zatu ben Yehuda v'imem kodim Levim, uvnei goin v'eli uvnei koitzi ketzios. Mayu b'nei goin v'eli uvnei koitzi ketzios. Who was this? Pamachas gazra malchad zel yisro shlevu eitzel marocha. The powers that be said, you're not allowed to bring wood. V'shlevu b'kurim l'shalayim. V'hushbu puzdos al adrachim. And they put guards. What do the righteous people of that generation do? They brought baskets that you normally bring bikurim. The chipum bikzios, they put thorns. V'natlum v'alu al ktefeim. The kivin shegu etzel pruzdos ramalam lav. Leichnatama, where are you going? Omrim lam lasos shnei agulat vel b'machkatz shlefanenu. To make fig cakes. Then they dressed it up more, they brought it to Yerushalayim. So these tzaddikim referred to as the Bnei Zatu. They were zoicha to bring their korban on a Yom Tov, Tu B'Av. On the day that it says, L'hayu yomim tovim liYisrael, k'chamish asar b'Av. And that was the day when Hoshea ben Elah abolished the guards that Yeravam set up that they shouldn't make Aliyah. This was the same sakana, where they had put up guards, and therefore there's a connection between the two. Pasuk Tes. Bnei Zakai, Shva Meos v'Shishim. The Bnei Zakai were 760. Yud Aleph. Excuse me. Bnei Bani Sheshvos Rabban Ushnaim. The Bnei Bani were 623. This was also a family that's mentioned in the Gemara, Ben Bavi Alapakia. It was a certain. They did the wicks for the menorah. Bnei Azgad Elef Masayim Esrim Ushnaim. Bnei Adonikam Sheshmos Shishim V'Shisha. They suspect that this from the tribe of Jehuda, from Adoniah ben Chagid. So that is their yichus. Bnei Bigvai Alpayim Chamisha v'Shishim. Bnei Adin Arba Meos Chamisha v'Arba. Rashi says that this is the Adino Ha'etzni, or descendants of him, is listed in Shmuel Beis, who were one of the heroes of David HaMelech. Adino means to fold. He studied Torah, he would fold his limbs and recline in a posture of complete physical repose and absolute intellectual absorption. Ha'etzni, like wood. He was as tough as a block of wood. According to Rav Yosef the Gemara, Adin is no other than Yoav ben Tzruya. Rav Yehuda says that Adin refers to David HaMelech himself. So it's again descendants of the house of David. Tetzayin, Bnei Ater liYechizkiah Tishim Ushmona. These are from Zerah Chizkiah Melech, who we learned in Malachim Beis. Bnei Vetzai Shloshmos Esrim Ushlosha. Look how important it was for the Navi to list every family that made Aliyah. It shows the importance of Aliyah. Every family is listed, big or small. B'nei Yora Meu Shnai Masar.
Ernie,
Yes.
why does Ezra feel it's necessary to point out each one of these families? Are these because these are the Olim Rishonim for the second base of Mikdash, and that's their importance, their shaykhs?
Bernie, we're getting a list here of every Jew that made Aliyah.
Yeah, I understand. So these were the pioneers going back for.
We're going to see it amounts to like 40,000. When you add up all these numbers, we're going to see whether it stems or not. But we're listing all the families and how big their families were. Some were big, some were smaller. You see, some were smaller, some were bigger, and they made Aliyah as families.
And the Zechuyot.
Well, we're being some of
Mefarshim give you the Zechuyot.
are giving us who they were. We know some of them. We're up to Bnei Chashum, Masai Mesrim Ushlosha. Bnei Gibar Tishim v'Chamisha. From a place called Givon.
Isn't it significant for the orders?
Say that again?
Is the reason it's significant the order of the families which come first and after?
Yes, we're going to see. All of the ones that we've mentioned first are Bnei Yehuda. Then we're going to mention the Bnei Binyamin. So there's a hierarchy. And we also mentioned the great Chachamim first. That was Rubavel, Yeshua, Nechem, Yisrael. So yes, there's a hierarchy here. Up until now, I've been mentioning most of who I've mentioned that we know is some kind of connection to either David HaMelech, Yoav ben Sruya, Chizkiah Melech, right? We haven't mentioned anything from Binyamin yet, so they're going to come second. Bnei Beit Lechem, Me'av Esrim U'Shlosha. Obviously, these were people who came from Beit Lechem, right? That it's not a family. They're returning to Beit Lechem where they came from. Anshe Netofa Chamishim V'Shisha. This is also a place, because Anshe Netofa is a place. Now, here's an interesting one. Anshe Anatot, Mea ve'esrim u'shmona. Now, Anatot was where Yirmiyah Navi was born. This already is in this tribe of Binyamin. The people in Anatot, there was a conspiracy to murder Yirmiyahu. So they were placed under a curse that they should be destroyed. Well, how could that be if they're now here coming back to Yerushalayim? So the Yalkut Shimoni says they had done tshuva and the klala had been lifted, and here they have a very privileged position in the ranks of those that are returning. Bnei Azmavet Arboim Ushnayim. This is a family of Azmavet. Bnei Kiryat Arim, Kfira Uve'erot. These are three different settlements. Shva Meot V'Arbaim Ushlosha. In Nehemiah, these three cities are all listed under Kiryat Ye'arim. And we know that the Aron HaKodesh, when the Plishtim sent it back, it stopped in Kiryat Ye'arim. So this is back into the era of Yehuda. Pasuk Chavav, Bnei HaRama V'Gava, 621. That's a place, Harama. Anshe Michmas, 122. 122 from Michmas. Anshe Beit El ve'Ai, these are cities that we're well familiar with, 223. B'nai Nevo, 52.
It's also
Nevo is the name of a person, not where Moshe Rabbeinu was born. Yes?
interesting. One time they say Anshe, one time they say Bnei.
Because sometimes, you notice, Anshe Beit Lechem, sometimes we're talking about people are going back. The Bnei Beit Lechem is not necessarily a family, but they're going back from a city that they were all exiled from. Others are coming back as family units. Absolutely correct. Bnei Magbish, 156. These are people. Magbish is a person. Bnei Elam Acher, right? That's a different Elam, name of a person. 1254. Bnei Charim is the name of a person. 320. Bnei Lod, Chadid ve'Ono, 725. The Meforshim tell us those are names of people, even though we know Lod is not referring to the place Lod. Bnei Yericho, 345. This is, of course, Yericho, which is a place. Bnei Sna, 3,630. Now, I'm going to stop here because now we shift. We mentioned people from Yehuda. We mentioned people from Binyamin. Those were the primary people who made Aliyah. We know, we'll learn about what about other Shvatim. We'll discuss that next week. Now we're going to start about the Kohanim and the Leviim. And that's a whole nother story. And that's a good place to stop now. I think we will finish Perek Beis and begin Perek Gimel next time we learn. Now, I'm leaving to Israel, God willing, next Sunday. So we're not going to be able to learn next Sunday. Then it's Pesach. So we're probably going to take a Pesach break until Susan and I get back. I'll be in touch with everyone by either by WhatsApp message or by email. But we'll hold on here until we get back and have our formal shiurim again. It's Daf Yomi I teach when I'm in Israel, but these shiurim, I have a lot of sources here. It's too hard for me to take them all with me. So this I have to do when I'm at home.
You can memorize them? You can't memorize them?
Okay.
The guy's allowed a vacation.
What was that?
Have a nice vacation.
Thank you.
Yeah. You deserve it.
Mazel tov, yeah.
Yeah, take it easy. You deserve it.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Yeah.